friends, old and new. Welcome to Stupid Little Games, the podcast where we talk about all things gaming from the inside out. Each week, I usually sit down with a guest from various parts of the gaming industry, and we chat about our current gaming obsessions. We tell stories from projects past or present, and then we play a stupid little game that I've written specifically for each guest. I say usually because this week is going to be a little bit different. So I just got back from GDC. In San Francisco. So this episode is going to be all about GDC. You probably already saw it from the title. So it was my very first GDC. And of course, I have thoughts about GDC. So I'm going to chat about my experience a bit as a first timer at GDC. And then I have a few current obsessions interviews that I did on site in San Francisco. So I wanted to chat with a bunch of folks about what they're playing right now. I love talking to other game devs about what they're playing. It really fascinates me. And there's always so many different answers. So it's just a lot of fun. And then lastly, after that, I'm going to give my very own, very specific to me GDC top 10 list of things that I liked and that I appreciated. I'm Jess, by the way, Jess Pardue. Thank you so much for listening and coming back. If you are a return listener to the podcast, if you're brand new here, hi, I'm Jess. Also, let me start out by saying I'm sick. So you could probably hear it. I'm quite sick. I came home from GDC and immediately got sick. Like immediately. It was comically quick. So I was fine basically all through GDC. My voice was gone. You'll hear that in some of the recordings. But that's just from talking with people and allergies. But I got very sick as soon as I walked in the door. Like I got home very late Friday night. I came in, I put my stuff down, and then I literally started sneezing. It's not COVID, thankfully. I have checked basically every day. But you know how con crud happens. Con crud is something that you always get basically from, well, not always, but a lot of times get from these huge groups of people getting together. It's just a thing that happens. So I apologize for my voice, but I am feeling better. I've been blob for the first couple of days and just resting from GDC because it was, a lot, especially for an introvert inside kid like myself. So sorry about the voice, but I have lots of tea and I have throat lozenges. So we're going to power through because that is what we do. Talking about like being an inside kid, I just want to call out that I'm actually really proud of myself for going to GDC. I went by myself. I'm a very anxious being, and I went by myself. I met lots of new people. I went to talk about the podcast because it's something that means a lot to me. And if you're listening right now, again, thank you. And I'm also looking for a new job, hopefully in the gaming industry. So it's good to just go and talk to people. And and I also met someone there that had heard of the podcast. And they're from like the Pacific Northwest. So it's not someone that I knew. It was not a friend of a friend. It was just someone that I stopped and talked to about current obsessions. And you'll hear her colleague, I believe his name is John, later on when I'm playing some of the current obsessions interviews on site. But I gave them out my cards and she was like, oh, wait, I've heard of this. And I was like, no. She was like, no, I absolutely have. So she might have just been being nice to me. But either way, it really worked because I was just like, oh, someone like actually listened to the podcast that I hadn't actually met. So hi, thanks for listening. Also, there's a bunch of thanks that I want to give to people that I met at GDC. So first, I'm just going to be a bit grateful here for a second. So first, I want to say a big thanks to Stefania Haldersdottir. She was on the podcast back in December. I think it was called Two Grown Women Talk About Lazy Town. She's the CEO of Avalanche, and she introduced me to so many people and just pulled me along with her. And she's the CEO of a company. So, she did not have to do this. We're also we're friends outside of work. And I know that I worked for the company that is no longer in New York that she runs, but we are still quite close. So thank you so much, Stefania. Also through her, I met Orvar in person, who was on the last podcast, 2 weeks ago. So the one of the creative leads for Minecraft, Orvar Halderson, also very nice in person. Meeting him and his partner was amazing. So thanks to Stefania, thanks to Orvar. I also want to thank to Behold VC, the folks from Behold VC. So Lena and Benny, I got to hang out with them. They are a venture capitalist company from Europe. They are both Icelandic, and they are just the nicest people. And Benny, you may hear on a podcast episode in the future. He's a very fascinating person. So thank you, Benny. Thank you, Lena. Also, big thanks to CCP Games. I went to one of the parties at CCP Games, and it was so much fun, and everyone was so nice, and it was just great meeting everyone and going to that party. It was so much fun. Also, general thanks to everyone that chatted with me for the current obsessions. I talked to a bunch of folks. Unfortunately, I'm not able to put like everyone in the podcast here because some of the audio was a little chattery. We'll say chattery in the background. And we were hearing conversations that picked up on mic that we shouldn't really be like broadcasting everywhere. So, but I do have some great folks that you will be hearing in just a little while. For current obsessions. And I just want to say thanks to like the staff at the Intercontinental, the hotel that I stayed. People were so nice. Like I went and got breakfast every morning, and the like porters and the waiters, everybody was just so nice. And they were just like, "Morning, Jess." And they were just great. They were great. So I would like to chat a bit about GDC in general. So I had never been before. I wasn't sure what to expect, honestly. I made a plan I wanted to go to some talks. I wanted to meet people. I didn't have a like concrete, this hour I'm doing this 30 minutes I'm doing this 30 minutes I'm doing this, like setting up meeting after meeting after meeting. I wanted to go a bit more with the flow because I just never been before, and I didn't really know the lay of the land, you know? But of course, all of that quickly changed when I got there and actually started chatting with people. I still kind of went with the flow, but it was very different than I had planned. So first, I stayed at the Intercontinental, which is a hotel right beside the Moscone Center. And it was so close, and it was so nice staying at a hotel so close because I could just run back up to the room, drop things off, all that fun stuff. There's a lobby downstairs where I did a lot of the meetings. I'll talk about that a bit later. Because since it's so close to the Moscone Center where the actual GDC was being held, I didn't feel bad about saying, like, let's just meet in the lobby of the Intercontinental because they didn't have to go far, and it was a quieter place where we could just sit and chat. So Intercontinental was great. I'm very lucky to have been staying so close, and we got these rooms last year. So little tip, if you're going to GDC and you know the year before, I believe I got this room in November. So October, November is the time to do it because I had a great room. Another thing about GDC is that once I got there and started meeting people, I prioritized meetings over talks. So I had all these talks that I wanted to go see, especially with like producer tracks and everything. But then I just started chatting with people and meeting people. So I actually prioritized talking and meeting with people over the talks. I went to actually very few talks. I don't regret it because of all the people that I met and connections I made, and felt so much closer to the community, and felt so much closer to the community in New York City as well. I'll tell you about that in a second. So I didn't go to too many of the talks. I'm very lucky to have had an all access pass, which means that I get a year free GDC Vault. So for folks that don't know, GDC Vault is basically all the talks that they put online later, and you have to pay for them, and it's not cheap. So for a year of GDC Vault, I want to say it's like $500 and something. But if you certain passes that you get will give you access to the vault for a year. So in a couple of weeks, a lot of these talks that I missed, unfortunately, that I really wanted to see, I'll be able to watch on the vault. And the vault is great anyway, especially if you can't afford to go to GDC, which is completely understandable. It is so expensive. I don't know if I'll be able to do it again for a very long time. But if you can't go to GDC, you can just buy a vault subscription and you can watch talks from years and years back. And it's just such a great resource. It is kind of expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than actually going to GDC. So also one thing that I learned is that time goes by so much faster than you would think. So I was like, okay, I'm going to meet with this person and then I'm going to go to this talk at like 11 a.m. And then I would meet with the person and then I would look down and, it's like 11:20. And so time goes by so much faster when you're meeting with people. And so it's a good thing to kind of like keep in your mind, but don't beat yourself up if you don't get to all the talks that you want to go to. Like I said, I'm very lucky to have the all access vault access. So also there's a lot of them that will just be put on YouTube. There's tons of them on YouTube. So you can check them out there later as well. So the real GDC, I believe, value is in the connections that you make. So speaking of connections, so one of the first things that I did was Tuesday morning, I went to a Empire State Development, like New York City breakfast mixer. And that was so great. It was literally one of the first things that I did. And so I met a whole bunch of folks and they're all from New York City. There were a bunch of like former students from the NYU Game Center, a bunch of folks that teach at NYU. I met, of course, like the ladies from Empire State Development, which are really great. Shout out to Patricia and Shaylin and Ami that I met. And it was just so nice. So if there are breakfast from your state or from your country. I know that there were like country breakfasts as well. Like I saw there was like a Nordic party that was like everyone from the Scandies and things like that. So take a look and see if you can get into those sort of things, because this was one of the best things, especially starting right off. Because I was kind of nervous. Like I was there alone. I knew Stefania, but she also was very busy. And so I was like, how am I going to start talking to people? And this was a great kind of introduction to that. So thanks very much, Empire State Development, for giving me an invitation to that. And it was also a nice breakfast to have a bunch of tea and meet people. So let's see, what else? There's the expo hall. The expo hall didn't open until Wednesday. I thought that it opened on Tuesday, and I was very wrong. When they're still setting everything up. But once I actually went to the expo hall on Wednesday, I realized why they probably didn't have it on Monday and Tuesday. It was only Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it was because the expo hall was not full. It wasn't full at all. I'm used to going to places like PAX and Gen Con, where the expo halls are literally just like packed as full as they can be with booths and people and things like that. And it wasn't like that at GDC. The expo hall they didn't use the whole hall. They had at least half of the hall just blocked off. The main booths were from countries and from like states. So there was like a big thing for like all the gaming companies in Wales. There was a thing for Germany. I saw Brazil. There was a big thing for India and Poland, which is really cool because they're showcasing their game studios and the games that are coming out of those countries. They also had big booths from things like Meta and NVIDIA and lots of tools for game devs. Unreal, of course, had a big booth there. But those type of things. But I didn't see things from companies as much, like actual game companies. Like there were smaller booths in some of the country big areas, but there weren't like Bethesda or say like even like some of the Microsoft didn't really have a huge presence there. It was really interesting. I was surprised because it was again, first time I'd ever gone. But all the other big conventions that I'd gone to, it's just full to the brim of the expo hall. So I actually walked through the expo hall pretty quickly. It didn't take that long to get through there. It was one of the booths that I did see. So there was this game out of China called The Bustling World, and they had a beautiful booth. It was gorgeous. It's like a life city builder in medieval China. It looks so pretty. And I was talking to, I think, the marketing folks that were there for that game. And so just look up The Bustling World. If it comes out and is what it says it wants to be, which it looked really, really cool, then it's going to be really big. And it's definitely something that I would play. It was just so beautiful. The art style was amazing. So The Bustling World, that was one of the big standouts that I remember seeing walking through the expo hall. But yeah, I kind of went with the flow. I got invited to some things. One of the things that I actually went to, like I said in the thanks, is the CCP Games party that they had. And I went with Stefania, and Orvar came to that one as well because they used to work for CCP. And it was really cool. The folks at CCP Games are so nice. I met so many former and current CCP Games folks, like in all different parts of the company. So there was a performer there, and she called what she does like liquid choreography. So she did this big presentation, and she was such a character. She talked about choreographing fireworks and how she used to be a fireworks choreographer. And then she realized that the fireworks were all the original fireworks from way back were all named after flowers. So she then planted a garden of all of the flowers that the fireworks were named off of, because they kind of looked like a weeping willow and peonies and things like this. So then she started, it was an art installation where she had this garden of fireworks flowers. And then she realized that almost all of these flowers were edible. So she started turning these flowers, these fireworks flowers, into drinks. So she's using this specifically Icelandic alcohol with these flowers, and it was really cool. It was like she was definitely a character. She did a bunch of dancing, but I've never met a fireworks choreographer before, so that was really cool. And I think calling something liquid choreography is also really cool. I think that needs to be like a band name or something. They also had really great mixed drinks there and beautiful food, and it was just so nice. It was a beautiful spot on a rooftop, and it was really, really cool. I love Icelanders. I've talked about this on it before, how much I love Iceland. And Iceland as a place is also magical, but also Icelanders are also just some of the nicest people on the planet. So I will talk about Iceland any day. I want to go back so bad. And then let's see. I spent a lot of time hanging out and talking with people in Yerba Buena Gardens, which is a little park that is near the Moscone Center. And there just ends up being just tons of people that are just kind of sitting and talking, just tons of game devs. And it's just really nice. And it's also, it was a beautiful day. So sitting there and chatting with people was really cool. And yeah, the last day I walked around, I talked with a bunch of folks, and I did the Yerba Buena Gardens, and I had dinner with a bunch of friends, some of the new friends that I met, and some of them were friends that I knew beforehand. And honestly, that was one of the best nights, was Thursday night, where I just went and had dinner with friends and we just chatted, because we were all exhausted by this point, and having dinner and just connecting with people was the best thing. So shout out to those folks. And yeah, that was mainly my week. Like I said, I didn't go to too many of the talks, but I will be catching them on the vault in a couple of weeks once they all get posted. But it was a great experience. I had a bunch of fun. I gave out a bunch of drink covers, which it sucks that it's something that I felt like I needed to do, but I took just a whole huge bag of drink covers with me and just gave them out to anybody that wanted them, because there have been instances that I've heard, especially over the past few years, of people, especially femmes, but just folks in general, getting roofied at parties. So I was just like, here, please take these. And they were just little plastic things that you put over your drinks. But people seemed really appreciative of that, to be like, oh, somebody's thinking of that. And it also was like a bit of a connection. It's like here. So that was really nice. So I suggest getting drink covers if you go, and you can buy like 100 for $7.99 or something like that. So just give them out. Keep everybody safe. Keeping everybody safe is great. But I had a great time seeing a bunch of people, meeting a bunch of people. And that's just the way it went. It was wonderful. And I am exhausted. I'm not going to say tired. Tired kind of denotes like, I don't know, negative maybe. I am exhausted, but I was so happy. And then, of course, getting sick as soon as I came in. I've just been blobbing for the past few days and resting. And hopefully I can get better by later on this week, because I've got some like IGDA like game dev stuff to do later on in the week. So I'm hoping that I can go to that. So cool. I want to chat about the interviews that you're going to be hearing in just a few minutes. We're going to have a break for an ad, but then when we come back, you're going to hear a few of the other game devs that I talked to about what they're playing right now. And we get into what they're playing, but we also get into why they were there. Some of them are really brief and some of them are a little bit longer. And it was great talking to those folks, learning about the games. There are some indie games that I'm really excited about that you can actually wishlist now. There's some demos. And I learned a lot about some of the like narrative writing events that happened earlier on in the week. I actually missed it this time because I met the guy who ran it afterwards, but it's something that, especially if you're narrative. So take a look for that for like in the coming years. And again, thanks to everyone who stopped and chatted with me. It was so great. You made my GDC so wonderful, and you made me want to go back. And yeah, so I was chatting to so many people and just talking about game dev and what they were doing. I almost forgot to do the interviews. I'm just like, wait, no, can you talk to me about what you're playing right now? But they did. So yeah, we're going to take a quick break. And then as soon as we come back, you'll hear some interviews. Today's sponsor is Banshee, the newest video game from CLB Games. The gates of the otherworld stand open and the Greymalkin bids you welcome. A mysterious voice beckons you further into the wilds of this place. Explore the paths your ancestors blazed, hearing their lived truths as you walk the garden. Honor the acts of quiet bravery, of uncompromised dignity, and of rebellion in the face of tyranny. Learn your legacy in Banshee. And this is a game about Irish history, so Banshee is actually spelled Beansidhe. So the game launched March 17th, which was St. Patrick's Day, and that makes a lot of sense. So Banshee is available as a pay-as-you-want on itch.io. All proceeds are being donated to a rotating series of trans mutual aid and Palestinian families in need. So the money that you pay is going to go directly into people's pockets that it can help. So visit clbgames.com/BEAN-SIDHE for all download info, and all the links are going to be in the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much to CLB Games, and let's get back to the show. Hello. So my voice is a little better today. Not a lot better, but a little bit better. So I'm here with a friend. Tell me who you are and why you're at GDC.
My name is Zach Abramson. I compose music for video games, and I'm here at GDC to hang out with wonderful people like you, Jess.
It was so great to see Zach, because I haven't seen him in a really long time, because he used to do some work for Avalanche. So Zach, what are you playing right now?
Well, to be completely honest with you, I don't play very many video games because at the end of the day, I'm exhausted, and video games are like take a lot of I guess mental energy.
Yeah, they do. I could give you some no thoughts, head empty games though that you might be able to just like dissociate to, because that's my new favorite thing.
That might be better than my competitive cooking show vacation that I'm currently in. But what I have been playing a little bit of is a little game called Balatro.
Just a little game. Yeah, when you told me that you were, because we talked about this a little bit before this, but I was just like, oh, hell yeah, let's talk about Balatro, because I haven't talked about it on the podcast for a couple of weeks, and I missed it.
Well, I've been working on a game for the last few years called Linked, Lynked, with another former Avalanche guy named Ronnie Mraz. He was on the audio
shout out to Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie. And the game has been an incredible experience, and I've really enjoyed working on it. And it happens to be a roguelike mechanic game where you go out and the level might be a little difficult, but you can acquire stuff that allows you to max out your armor and your weapons and everything. And the fun part is actually when you go back to the beginning, it's a town building game. So you have like a little Animal Crossing meets Hades kind of feel.
That's cool.
But it was my first time writing for this type of game. And for me,
wonderful.
It's like important to kind of understand the mechanics as part of the writing process. So I was interested to hear about like a card game deck builder that's using these poker hands and like roguelike power-ups and things like that. Yeah. And I was like, this will be fun. I'll check this out for research. Ronnie recommended it.
Research, quote-unquote research.
Yeah, and 4 hours later, I'm like, I got the right Joker for this.
So as an audio guy, what do you think about the music of Balatro?
The music of Balatro is really cool.
It's great, right?
I think I heard it was written by somebody that the developer found through Fiverr.
Yeah. And then after it became, I'm a fan of Local Thug, because after it became huge, he started like cutting the guy in on what the actual thing was worth.
That's fantastic. Great. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, the music slows down like halftime when you lose, and it goes back up. There's like different versions of the music when you're in the celestial packs and stuff like that, and in like a very direct way, just creating this experience where it seems like this flat 2D thing, but there's actually a lot of depth to the music there.
I have had days where I'm just sitting and then the music of Balatro just kind of pops in my head, because I always have music in my head, like always. And it was like, wait, what is, it's Balatro. And then I'm like, now I want to play again.
Yeah. It's in that sense, the music is doing its job.
Yeah.
As well as video game music ever does its job. Yeah, get you to want to play the game more and like remember the game fondly when you're not playing it. That's like the number one. I mean, that's not the number one. The number one is a great player experience, but
it's up there.
It's like in the top. So.
It's up. So do you want to plug the company while you're here?
Sure. I'm an executive creative director at a company called You Two Can Woo.
It's so much fun to say.
It's an interesting name. One of the partners came up with the name in middle school, and he's been using it since.
That's amazing. And
when we all formed our partnership about 11 years ago, we decided to stick with that name because it is fun.
Yeah.
So, we're an audio and music production company based in Brooklyn, and it's always fun hanging with fellow New Yorkers out of town. But yeah, we're in the video game sphere, but we also do work in film and TV, sonic branding, advertising, brand strategy, things like that.
So if anybody out there needs video game music, any type of music, look up You Two Can Woo, and Zach will help you out.
Thanks so much, Jess.
Thank you. Make sure that we are going. All right. Go right ahead. I'm actually here in Yerba Buena Gardens, which is a beautiful day out here in San Francisco, and I met some new friends, so I'd love for you to introduce yourself and then tell me why you're here, and we'll talk about what you're playing right now.
I'm John. I'm a co-founder at a startup, Studio Nuggies. We do automated lip syncing in the Unreal Engine, but I've been playing Factorio.
Hell yeah.
Played Up, and Helldivers 2.
We'll talk about Helldivers 2 in just a second. What is Played Up?
Played Up is a cooking game where you design your own kitchen and
cool.
have to make food, entrees, sides, and desserts.
Oh, really, really cool. So what is it that you really liked about Played Up that kept you playing for a while?
The chaos. Yeah, it's a multiplayer.
Is it like a real kitchen? Because I know folks that work in like actual kitchens and it's always chaos.
Nah, it's not like a real kitchen, but it's close enough for us.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very, very cool. So I've talked about Helldivers 2 on the podcast a bit because when Helldivers 2 came out, I was working for a studio that was also making a multiplayer game, and Helldivers 2 is kind of
erased it.
Well, it didn't erase it, but there were a lot of meetings of like, have you played this game? This is what they're doing really well. You should totally do this. So I know that there were lots of like production meetings the week after that came out. But tell me about Helldivers.
I was a pre-order. I played
Nice.
the first game, so I was really excited. I was part of the when it was crashing. I was suffering through that.
That's awesome.
I made it through the hard times.
You were a real hell diver.
Yeah, I try. But now, I still play for the New Warbonds, and a couple of my buddies fell off the train, but I'm still.
So it came out, middle of last year?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff is coming out for it now? I know that they're it's live service and they're keeping up with it, but.
They're still doing some fixes, but for the most part, it's just new content like armor, guns.
Gotcha.
Their last big update was new enemies.
Cool. I was so excited for the Helldivers 2 folks because I know they worked on that for a really long time. And one thing in the industry is when there is a game that is successful and people love it, like we're just so happy for them. People,
we're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah. Absolutely
good problem to have. Also, well, it was so nice chatting with you. Do you want to give a plug to the company one more time?
Yeah. Thanks for interviewing us. My name is Jon, Studio Nuggies.
Studio Nuggies. Great cookies. And what is the name of the cookie company?
Cakes by Lexi.
Cakes by Lexi. I got one of these cookies. It's adorable, and it's a little dino, and it looks like a dinosaur nugget, and it says Studio Nuggies. It's the best. So look up Studio Nuggies, and thank you so much for chatting.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Awesome, and we are going. So, again, I'm going to apologize for my voice for the 47 millionth time. But I'm here with, actually, I'll let you introduce yourself and where you are from and what you're doing here, and then we'll talk about what you're playing.
Yeah, so my name is Camron Gonzalez. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York. And
Hell yeah, Brooklyn.
Hell yeah, Brooklyn. And I'm just here at GDC to meet people and see some cool games.
And you're a narrative designer.
Yes.
Or a narrative systems designer, I should say.
I do a little bit of everything with narrative design. I do writing. I'm currently writing for like a live action role play, and I'm doing like narrative systems design for an educational games company. So I purposely made sure to get myself in all of the little buckets of narrative design.
Can you talk about the LARPing that you're writing right now? Like, is it something you can talk about or you can't?
I don't know how much I can say, but I can say at least it is an 80s style horror LARP.
Oh, cool!
Very much inspired by things like Stranger Things, E.T. Very fun. We've got like 100 characters that we're going to cast with players.
Cool. I have some friends that are like super into LARPing, so and it's totally fine if you can't talk about it.
I can definitely plug the name because I think we are selling tickets, so I think there's still a few.
Yeah, anything that you can talk about, that's go for it.
So the LARP is called Hawkins. It is going to take place in the Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
A beautiful place, like Glacial Ridge. We visited the grounds last year in October, and it's gonna be a fun time. There's gonna be drama. There's gonna be some spookiness and some adventure.
Really cool.
I'm excited for how it comes out.
Awesome. So for the LARPers out there, look up Hawkins because it sounds like a fun, spooky time. Okay, that sounds really, really cool. So what are you playing right now?
So I'm playing two things. I've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds.
Hell yeah. I haven't started it yet, and strategically I haven't started it yet because I'm playing 2 Point Museum, and I'm obsessed with 2 Point Museum. It's wonderful. So I want to get through 2 Point Museum so that I can throw everything into Monster Hunter.
Before the lead up to GDC, I was telling my partner, I was like, man, I don't want to go to San Francisco.
Right?
I just want to play Monster Hunter. I've played several of the Monster Hunters before, but it hasn't clicked with me until now.
I've heard this from a few different people, and my best friend, who is also audio director for the podcast, and I've talked about him a bit before, but he's playing Monster Hunter, and all he wants to do is bonk. All he wants to do is bonk the dinosaurs, and he's made the jokes of calling it Monster Listener, because when the story's going, and he has to put the controller down, and then he gets to play again, but he's now through the main story of it, and he's having a blast.
See, yeah, I'm still in the main story, so I'm waiting for the game to truly open up, as everyone has said. I used to, so when I played Monster Hunter Worlds and Rise, I was definitely Bonk the Monster.
Yeah.
But this time, and I think this is why it's been clicking with me, is I've been a lot more open to exploring the new weapon. Not the new, I don't think they're new, but like the different weapon types.
There's a lot of weapons though, yeah.
When I started the game, I spent like 2 hours just like the where they're like, oh, you could pick your weapon, and then are you ready to go? We can start the tutorial, just trying out the different weapons and seeing a feel for it.
I really like that about Monster Hunter, that if you want to try the different weapon, you can. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to like earn this. You can just like play with it and start seeing if this is what you are into.
The player experimentation is like, it's great. Like, it's nice to be able to have that like agency, you know. But I landed on the insect glaive. There's something really fun about just flipping in the air. I don't know. It's really satisfying. I'm not like, I don't think I'm the best with like, this is the Kinsect, right? I think is what it's called. I don't think I'm the best with that yet. But I'm getting there. And then the other weapon is the charge blade, because it turns into an axe, and it's a chainsaw axe. Like, I don't know.
Like, how can you not have fun with a fucking chainsaw?
Exactly,
axe?
and it hits pretty hard. So yeah, no, I've been having a blast with that game. The second game I found it on TikTok. It's called Hylix, if you've ever heard of this. I think it's just made by one guy, but it's this very surrealist RPG. Like, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like very in-depth or complex, but it's so strange and absurd. And Hylix, Hylics.
Oh, cool. What platform?
It's on Steam, and I think it's only on Steam. But very. It's not, like I said, it's not a very complex RPG. It's something akin to like Earthbound, if I could compare it to something. But it's funny. Like there's a lot of just like nonsensical banter between the cat. And the art style is truly. I don't even know how to. It's like it looks like clay, but everything is so like the designs are so interesting and unique. Yeah. And then when it comes to like the battle animations, like doing battle, you're just doing random nonsense. Like for example, you can throw a burrito and it'll explode at people. When you do spells, like you do like these gestures, and the way that the gestures are animated looks really like it tickles the brain.
That's
and like
cool.
a really.
That sounds like something I would like.
Yes, you should. I think I would recommend checking out. There's 2 of them now. So I'm playing Hylix 1. I think last year Hylix 2 came out. That sort of the guy was able to expand upon the base idea of it all.
Can I say I get so excited when somebody is telling me about a game and they really like the first game, and they're like, and there's another one. So that's like, okay, if I like this, I'm going to have hours and hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And 'cause there's nothing I love better than watching or playing a game and then finishing it and going straight into the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to it. I obviously, work obviously, and Monster Hunter Wilds can get in the way of that. But like every time I think about it, like there was one night where I was just sitting after dinner just playing it, and I was sleepy, and my partner was like, "You should go to bed." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, Hylix,
I have things to do."
Yeah, I got burritos to throw, But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
That's great.
Very fun.
So as a narrative systems designer, when you're playing a game, is like something like Monster Hunter, because I don't know Hylix as well, but I know a bit about Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Are you able to turn off the narrative brain and just like go with the flow when you're like playing the games, or are you like, that's a really cool thing they did, or I would do this a little differently, or
sometimes I'm always, because I always want to learn, so I'm always like looking at it, like, okay, so this is how they did it, this is how they do it, and there's nothing wrong with the way they did this, so that means that I could do something similar to that and not feel subconscious about it, that I'm like doing it bad.
That's great.
There are times where I do like to turn off, but it's more often than not, I'm always trying to like learn something from the game.
That makes sense.
Even if it's good or bad, if I like it or don't like it.
Yeah, I talked to some folks, like especially because I just a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, I had Andre Coleman, and he is a lead QA. Mm-hmm. And so it especially fascinates me with QA, like, can you turn off QA brain?
Yeah.
Because QA brain is a just very specific sort of thing. And I'm like, when you're playing yourself, are you trying to break it?
Yeah.
Like, are you looking for collision points? Or are you like, and then in your head, you're like, oh, I need to make a ticket about this. And then you're like, wait, I don't work on this game. I'm just playing this game. But he said that, yeah, you don't ever really get to turn it off.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to think about, like, especially knowing everything that goes together. Because usually I can turn it off. I'm good at, like, no thoughts, head empty gameplay. Disassociating, this is great.
Yeah.
But even sometimes I'm like, oh, like, I know how they did that, and that's interesting. And I don't know, it's just another, like, facet of the gameplay that I really appreciate as being a game dev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you learn to love it, and you get to appreciate it, and you get to find, like, ways that you would never have thought to, like, deliver either narrative or do systems for it, right? Like, it's great.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, do you want to plug yourself or plug who you're working with now?
Yes. So, like I said, I'm a writer. I'm a narrative designer. I can do technical stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working for, like I said, that LARP, and I'm working for a company called Altarea, working on an educational games company. We're soon, hopefully, going to be launching our game, getting it to schools across the United States. It's about fighting disinformation.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very. I feel like a very important mission. So soon, the goal will be at the end stretch.
And I know that you're also teaching.
I do teach.
Right?
Yes.
And so, making an educational game, what is the age group for the games that you're making?
Middle school to high school.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting. Oh, I'm so fascinated because I know a few authors of that like age range.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me, like, because being an adult, you have to, like, you think adult type things. Like, how do you have to change the way you're designing to be for 14-year-olds?
Yeah, like, we've definitely. So I don't handle the writing for this game. I strictly do, like, the technical part of the narrative stuff. But every now and then, like, my team and I will be implementing the script into the game, and we'll be like, hey, like, kids don't talk like this, But usually, honestly, the writers are pretty spot on about it.
Can they bring on, like, Gen Alpha playtesters and just be like, speak some of the words to them and just say, is this cringe?
Yeah, exactly.
Cringe?
And the thing too is, like, it's like, oh, well, we can, of course, test the game ourselves, but we're not going to get the information.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we got to find kids to play this and make sure that they rock with this. And from the testing that we've done so far, it seems like the educational concepts are landing. So that's really exciting.
That's the most important part,
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for chatting. Also, good luck, and I hope you have a great rest of your GDC.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, we are recording. Sorry about my voice. It's GDC voice. But so if you just tell me your name, what you're doing here, you can say you're here to promote your game. That's awesome. And what you're playing right now.
So I'm Diane Wang. I am a solo dev and narrative designer. So here to promote my game Silencer.
I just played a demo of it and it's brilliant. So go to Steam right now and you can get it. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I am now playing Madden Wars, and I have probably 300 hours in already.
Wow.
So it's in early access. Great game. Mostly city building and seeing your citizens, running around in your little map and then be happy about it. I am super into, like, sandbox game, even though I am a narrative designer. But I think when you're building a city or building a house in Sims 4, you are not thinking about anything.
So, like, as a narrative designer, though, do you kind of come up with your own like stories in your head when you're doing the sandbox games, like who these people are, their backgrounds, who they their hearts broken by 20 years ago, so they don't want to live near them now?
Yes, but that depends on the game. So in Sims 4, I would be like, coming up with stories of this household and then the family dynamics. But in Mandalores, I'm more like, okay, this family is probably really close to the noble house, like your character. So they live really close to your manor, and then I will make their house look very pretty, like all the trees and all this stuff. And other people, yeah, these are craftsmen, and these are just peasants. So sorry, peasants.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite thing about a game like that? Is it because it's like a no thoughts, head empty sort of game where you can disassociate for a while, or is it the actual like building of the world?
It's building. It has a lot of flexibility when it comes to city building. It's not like as restricted as other games. So I can make sure the lots are different, like the houses are different in sizes, and having strategies in mind actually. So it's not like thinking about real life issues. It's more like, how can I make this better? So that's making me relax.
Oh, how getting away from real life issues is what I'm here for right now. I mean, is the year 2025 and we're in the United States. So yeah, give me something where I can escape.
That's definitely true.
Are you playing anything else right now? Or what about what's your favorite game of all time? What's something that you just go back to whenever you're like, you know what, I want to start a new campaign in this game?
I would say Crusader Kings 3.
Crusader Kings, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you like about Crusader Kings?
It's like the character stories. I can develop their characters, and then sorry about this topic, but I really like to just make my characters breathe so they get different traits, and I get to choose who do I disown, and then who should be my next character so I can have some fun.
That is hilarious. So I've not played Crusader Kings, but I have watched other people play it. I think Mini a True Nerd, I believe, he plays lots of the long form games like that, and he has played it. And it's hilarious to see the progression, because sometimes it can get really unhinged, and it's just so much fun to watch. I can see why that would be such a fun game to play. So when you go back, do you go back to Crusader Kings a good bit, or is it like a once a year I'm going to go back and I'm going to play it?
Probably every 3-4 months, I think.
See, that's a game. That's an obsession, right? So I do that with Stardew Valley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go back. That's my blanket and warm cup of tea game. And I'm like, I'm just gonna start a new farm. I'm embarrassed at how many hours I put into Stardew Valley at this point. Well, I'm not embarrassed, actually. I'm lying.
1,500 hours.
Yes. See, that's wonderful. So good on you, Crusader Kings. So somebody will come back to it every 3 or 4 months. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for chatting with us. And again, Silencer is on Steam right now. Wishlist or just download it, play it. It's really fun. I just played it. So if you like Papers, Please, you're gonna really like Silencer. And it's really cute too. The art is amazing, and it's written really cleverly. So take a look.
Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome, Diane. Have a great rest of your con.
You too.
Okay, la. Great. More current obsessions here at GDC. So if you would introduce yourself and your company and what brought you here, and then we'll talk about what you're playing.
Hi, my name is CJ Kershner. I am the studio head of Polyhedron Productions. We are an independent developer founded in 2015 and based in the wilds of New York. And it is because of New York that we are here at GDC. We are sponsoring the New York State Pavilion in the Expo,
Nice.
along with the Empire State Development Group.
Cool. Yeah, I saw their booth yesterday and talked to Shaylin, and Patricia. What's up, and Ami?
Ami.
And I met CJ at the New York breakfast that we had on Tuesday. So I'm really glad to meet you. I hadn't really met you before this, but
Likewise.
I love getting together, especially with more New York devs. And so now we're hanging out at GDC. So what are you playing right now, CJ?
So right now I am playing, that's a good good question. I'm trying to think back. I did a lot of judging for the IGF this year, and one of the ones that stood out, I don't know how it fared last night at the award ceremony, but I fell in absolute love with it, was Pacific Drive.
Oh, I love Pacific Drive.
I did not expect to like it.
The aesthetics of that game are stellar. I fucking love that game.
It was the soundtrack.
Oh, it's so good.
That did it for me. Like I could, I'd turn the game off, and then I would hear the songs, and they're just the right sort of vibe for this, like, sort of 70s road trip indie alt rock.
Yeah.
I did not expect to like the game as much as I did, because I've played the scavenge and survival games. I feel like I know how these systems and mechanics are going to. Didn't matter. Like this, and even the aesthetic was initially a turnoff as well. I went, is this Stalker? Is this Half-Life?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It turns out I just want to keep exploring the spaces and going through lockers so I can find more screws and nuts and bits of wire and pocket lint and whatever else, and repair, change the woody sides on my station wagon to steel plating so I'm not getting...
One thing that I really liked about that game is because you just start off and you have no idea what's really happening.
Yeah.
And you just know that you're in this jalopy and it's falling apart and you have to figure out, but it's your only lifeline. Like, only thing you really know at the beginning is that you need this car in order to live. And you have someone kind of telling you this and kind of guiding you.
Yeah, there are several characters that are coming in over the radio, but they're all.
I love the radio station.
I haven't yet played far enough to know if they are just going to be disembodied voices for the rest of the experience. I haven't yet played far enough. I've put probably 45 hours into the game, which is absurd.
I haven't met anyone who's played Pacific Drive that didn't absolutely love it. It was kind of surprised by it as well.
Yeah, well, the other thing is I am very much... I'm not a track guy or a tuner. I'm a joyrider.
Nice.
And it replicates what I call the ballet of driving. I still drive a stick shift because I like...
Can you even buy stick shifts anymore?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Random tangent. I do know that I have several articles saved in my clippings folder about electric vehicle manufacturers that are trying to figure out how to replicate the feeling of a stick shift in their vehicles, despite the fact that there is no gearbox or transmission system.
Interesting. So
just to recreate that motor.
So maybe in a couple of years, you're going to get an electric guitar that kind of does the ka-chunk when things turn over. So I remember stick shift.
Oh, I really struggled to imagine driving without one, and if I drive someone else's car and it's an automatic, I still leave my hand
right there in the middle
and I'm like, please don't throw it into park accidentally, because my brain will try and do it. But
I learned how to drive on a stick shift.
I did too.
Going up those hills.
Yep. Oh God, I wouldn't drive a stick shift in San Francisco.
No, absolutely not.
Trying to get out of First on California.
Nope.
No. But it does have it recreates not the clutch and shift, but remembering to pull the handbrake up when you get out of the car, because if you don't, it starts rolling away from you.
Yeah.
Or having to actually like flip the wipers and lights on. They're such minor things. Initially, they seem like such an inconvenience, and then as you've played enough of it, they just become muscle memory.
Yeah.
Unexpected, but really delightful.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I've been playing that. We were discussing this a bit off mic earlier, but I have been also surprised by how much I've been enjoying Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And I shouldn't be, because they're always insanely well-produced and polished games.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as I was playing through the most recent one, and I don't follow it every year, I realized that the Black Ops series, that branch, has always been the one that has been a bit more experimental.
Yeah.
I remember playing the very first one on Xbox 360, and it was set up as an interrogation drama, but you could break out of the chair and go over to a computer system and play the entirety of Zork on it.
See, those are the things that I like in games, and I've never been a Black Ops girly. I guess I've never actually played them before, but I love games within games.
Yeah.
Like anytime that you're like, oh, here's an arcade. Did someone care enough to make things that I can play? And even if they're like small games, like even in Stardew Valley, like you can play little things on the arcade, and it's just like one other little thing that like, oh, somebody liked this a lot.
I mean, I picked Black Ops 6 up solely on the note that it had a hub space that was in a mansion that had sort of a haunted house puzzle thing going on.
Nice.
And I went, you know what? That sounds weird. And absolutely not like what I expect from a Call of Duty game. And again, as I played through the rest of it, it has a lot of the Call of Duty combat, shoot all the dudes.
Yeah.
But in framing devices for a lot of those combat sequences, there's a thing about, infiltrating a political fundraising event and how you identify a target that you need to get information from that. There's a casino heist mission.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking they got a lot of leeway to really just go wild with some of these missions.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like anything with a haunted house contingent.
Sadly, there weren't
No ghosts?
No go. Well,
Damn.
but if there were, I don't know if there's a phone system, but I do know who to call in those cases.
We were talking a little bit before we got on mic, but I want you to actually tell me a little bit more about it. So on Monday night, you did a narrative writing competition.
Yes.
And it was just so interesting to me, and I know this isn't about video games, but it is about video games. So can you tell me again on mic what that was? And it just sounded so brilliant to me, and tell me why you were doing it and who you were doing it for.
I can't take any credit for the concept. And don't quote me, but I do believe that the originator of it was Richard Dansky, who was previously the Tom Clancy central writer for Ubisoft Red Storm, and is now with Romero Games.
Cool.
But it's a competitive, improvised writing elimination challenge that's held at the Golden Gate Tap Room, usually on the Monday night of GDC, and it's students, it's narrative designers, writers, word nerds, pun aficionados who put their names into the pool, the competition pool, and are then served prompts such as pitch us the main character for Star Wars In-Laws, no Skywalkers or Palpatines allowed, or what was the other one? The new Call of Duty game features the on-screen button prompt, press F2, as a take on one of the games that had press F to pay respects at a military funeral.
Oh yeah, press F to Jason or something like that.
Exactly. That sort of ridiculous on-screen UI indicator. What is the goofiest thing that they can think of? And they get a few minutes to come up with an idea, and then there's usually a panel of about 3 to 5 judges that they will read it aloud to, and the judges will assess it, and it's elimination style, so some people proceed to the next round, some get knocked out. There's usually prizes. It's a lot of fun. It's an evening of laughter. It is also shouting over a crowded sports bar, which is
with the sports still going, right?
With the sports, of course, still going. So part of it is checking to see whether or not they're hitting their briefs, and whether or not Steph is hitting the 3-pointer that he's taken. So it was. I was very. I've judged it in the past. This year was my first as an MC. It was a joy.
That's awesome.
The other thing that was really lovely about it was so many of the students that were participating were also involved in the narrative poster review that happens as part of the GDC Narrative Summit.
Oh, cool.
And so this was a really good opportunity to get to meet them in a more relaxed social context.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the session where they went through all of their detailed, critical narrative analyses to really connect both, the person who was making goofy jokes yesterday with the person who is having these really brilliant insights about what they're playing the next day. And it's one of the reasons why I keep coming to GDC is meeting new people, getting inspired, and...
Did you have a favorite story?
In terms of the ones that they pitched at the Right Club?
Because they only had like 2.5 minutes to write it down, right?
Yeah.
So
the one that sticks out actually, and I don't remember who did it. It was from last year. And I'm trying to remember how not safe for work.
you can curse anything. You're absolutely fine.
One of the prompts last year, and I think it was give combat barks for a barnyard fighting game, and someone created a llama fighting character, and the taunt line was, "I spit, you swallow." And I went, "Oh, that sounds good," but then you think about it, you're like, "No, llamas are notorious spitters." So like,
it's biting and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's inappropriate and yet totally appropriate.
Yeah.
That sort of dumb double entendre, I live for it. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Oh, wow. Yeah. So will you be doing it again next year?
Yes. Though my voice has certainly got a lot more vocal fry than it does normally.
Mine too.
Well, and that's usually a natural.
But this is why they do it on like Monday night, so that you can first night of the con.
No, then the worst time to do it, because then you are shot for the rest of the show.
Week. Yeah, exactly.
If anything, do it on Friday when everybody is. I'm hoping to participate again next year. I'm also hoping to chat with the group that sort of organizes it and go, do we have can we get it in a slightly quieter environment, maybe with a more formalized process?
Maybe somewhere that doesn't have a basketball game going at the same time?
Well, the other thing, we also had way more competitors show up this year than we've had in previous years.
What a good problem to have.
It was an excellent problem to have, though it also meant that...
Yeah, where are you going? Where's everybody going to sit?
How can they hear us? Where are they sitting?
Also, if everyone's doing their own, that's a lot to
so that was
get
the thing
through.
is we're still operating on an individual entry basis, and when you've got 45 people that you need to judge each in a row and figure out how to do it in a way that is not exposing the judge's decisions to each of them immediately after having delivered it. So perhaps that's going to be a team bracket structure, perhaps. Remains to be seen, but I know that I'm already looking forward to it next year.
That's awesome. Well, and you have a whole year to plan it out. So that's great. Before you head off, do you want to plug Polyhedron?
Certainly. So Polyhedron is currently developing a post-apocalyptic comedy trash collection game
Hell yeah.
for the Playdate handheld console called Keeping It Real Fishing.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
So I bought my partner a Playdate for Christmas.
Oh, fantastic.
And he loves it. He loves it. And he's a fan of teenage engineering. And teenage can be hit or miss with things, but it's always going to be stylish and it's always going to be interesting, So anytime something new teenage engineering comes out, I'm like, we need to get you this thing. I didn't expect him to love it as much as he did. And he would just sit there, because it's kind of small. And it reminds me of my original Game Boy days where there's no backlight. So he's like, here, look at this thing. And I'm like, I can't see that.
I feel like I have become such an evangelist / I hope shill is the wrong word, but
shill is fine.
Shill's fine. It's because I love it as well.
Yeah.
Teenage engineering gosh, I can't get that out. My nasal. Teenage Engineering did the industrial design for it, but the company that creates it and manufactures it is called they're Panic. They're in Portland, Oregon. They're predominantly Mac software developers.
Oh wow.
So like, code editors and SFTP applications. And they built this thing on a whim.
Cool.
They're like, we want to do this. They've got their whole story on the Playdate site. But it's a terrible idea, and they doubled down on it, and they did it simply because it brings this weird sense of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
They've also they've got the season 1 games, so there's 24 pre-installed. All sorts of weird,
the seasonal
wonderful stuff.
aspect of the games too is so interesting because Baird can't wait until he gets the new games that are coming in, and I'm always fascinated by systems like that give you all of these constraints. Like it needs to be a pretty simple game, but there are so many games because the bird watching game, where you actually have to take photos of I forgot the actual name of it, but it comes in the season
Casual
1.
Birder,
Casual Birder, yes, thank you. He got obsessed with that game, and it was really hard. And it seems like such a simple thing, and then it ends up not being simple. And of course, it's clever writing, and it's punny, and the birds are made up, but they're close enough to be this is supposed to be an owl, and this is supposed to be a robin, but it's funny enough to be oh ha. And I was blown away by how much he loved it.
I mean, they're again, it's a weird system because it feels like it should be very retro, and yet it is also capable of, I don't want to say, very modern, but it does do some very rudimentary 3D. If you imagine Mac black and white software circa 1997, but running at 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
It's capable of doing that, but you get, as you said, no backlit screen. It's 2-color, but it's either black or white. You have a D-pad, the 2 buttons, and
the crank. I love the crank.
Those constraints foster so
much innovation.
Such an incredible amount of creativity and innovation and problem solving.
Don't they also have tools that make it easier to make your own game?
So in addition to the games that came pre-installed, they released their entire SDK to the public, and they're like, we want people to make things for it, which is actually how we ended up making. Part of it is to create something that we can hold in our hands, hand to people at shows, and say, hey, this is what we're making, this is who we are, this is our goofy identity. And part of it's also to find out what the best practices are so that we can work with students to get them building things and get them portfolio pieces that will
amazing.
Then
what a great idea.
Yeah. So our game, I mean, the thing about the crank is everybody sees it and initially thinks, we'll make a fishing game. And then their second thought is, no, everybody else is making a fishing game. So as a result, there's
no fishing games.
There's only one fishing game on the actual system so far. We took it a step and went, well, if everybody were making a fishing game, what's the fishing game that nobody would make? And the answer was one without any fish. So if there aren't any fish, what are you catching? Every fishing mini game has the disappointment items, right? And
when you get the trash. But
here's the thing: they always have the same 3 items. What are they? Like one of them's the empty tin can,
a crumpled up ball of paper, or something like that.
Yep.
A boot.
The old boot, and then the spare tire. And what if we didn't stop there? What if instead of the spare tire, you pulled up the entire hatchback? And as we kept doing it, it turns out there's a lot of weird stuff that's actually in the water. The MTA drops disused subway cars off the coast of New Jersey to form, artificial reefs. What if you're pulling up, the old 2 train? What else is off the coast of New Jersey? Nicky Calamari was going to turn states, and now he's sleeping with the fishes.
So you get to pull up body bags?
No, you get to pull up the whole body.
Oh wow!
The whole body. He's still there with his sunglasses and his tie. But
he's fine.
There's a can of. This is true. There is a can of Spam at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, 20,000 feet below the surface of the water. You look at the picture on the National Oceanographic. I don't remember what the 2 A's stand for. It's not Alcoholics Anonymous. NOAA website, and it's a can of Spam, and you're like, boy, I hope that Well, fortunately, spam has its own key, so the fish didn't have to work too hard to get into the content. And again, there's a lot of room for really appropriate, inappropriate double entendres, which are things that I absolutely adore writing.
Yeah. I'm into it.
Do I want to give that one away? Oh,
Don't.
All right.
So, when can we expect to look for that?
So we're still working on it. We've actually just had several demos of our first playable prototype in October of 2024
Cool.
at a number of shows upstate. We actually also just demoed it for the New York State Legislature.
Wow.
Which is not a situation I ever expected to be. Like E3, GDC, and the Senate lobby. Okay.
But that's the cool thing about Empire State. So if anybody listening is in New York, and I've talked about this a little bit before, please reach out to Empire State Development because they have so many tax breaks and a whole bunch of things. Like there's an Office of Digital Development, and they want to give you money back for making video games in New York State. The money is there. So just like reach out.
But yeah, so we're hoping to have something ready to ship by the end of this year.
Cool. That's quick.
Well, it's been a longer process than expected, but it's also something that my team and I are doing sort of on a spare time basis, nights and weekends.
Yeah. Of course.
That said, every new release builds more momentum, so hopefully the next one will be commanding more of our time and attention.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting. This has been really wonderful chat, and I hope to see you again soon.
Same.
Okay, and we are back to just me after those Current Obsessions interviews. Instead of doing a regular Stupid Little Games today, since it's just me all by my lonesome, I'm going to do a Jess's very specific GDC top 10 list. So it is not a non-exhaustive list. These are just things that I really appreciated and really liked about the week. So let's get into it. Okay, number 10. Number 10 are the little DJI mini mics that I used for all of the on-site interviews. It was loud. It was loud in all of these places that I was taking these interviews. And I know you could still hear that there are people behind us as we were talking, but you can actually hear what we were saying. And I was surprised. So these little DJI mini mics are great. This is kind of a boring entry, but they were so easy to use that it really made me taking interviews on the fly so much easier. So you just plug them in. I have an iPhone, so you literally just plug it into the bottom of the iPhone. And I use the the voice memos app. And I took from 5 minutes to like 25 minutes at a time. It was so easy. So these mics are great. They come with the little dead cats that you put on top that helped get rid of some of the background noise. And so I can't recommend them enough. They're half price of the Rode microphones that are the same thing, but they're really great. So if you're looking for, I won't say budget because they're still like $170, $180 for two of them, but it does come with two. You don't have to buy them separately. But they're not like $400 like the Rodes. And so those are really great. Number 9, having a room near the ice machine. So I had a room that was right across the way from the ice machine. Which means that whenever I needed ice, which I needed ice a lot because I bought these things of Gold Peak sweet tea because I'm addicted to sweet tea. I am from South Carolina. And so I bought a bunch of tea. And so I could just run across and grab ice in my PJs and not worry about anyone seeing me. It was just a nice little surprise. And so it was great. And it has its own room. So there was no like noise of the ice machine of people getting ice. So having a room near the ice machine, or it really made my stay better than it would have been otherwise. Number 8. So we got really great caramels from the Poland booth on the expo floor. So I was walking with my friend Stefania, and we saw this guy named Vlad that she knew, and he was like, you have to go to the Poland booth. He was Polish, and you have to go to the Poland booth because they brought these caramels and they are the best. And they were delicious. So next year, if you are at the Poland booth, I hope they bring the caramels back because they were so good. And shout out to Vlad and the folks that we met at the New York State booth with him. Number 7, this is not going to be anything novel to folks that live on the West Coast, but it was very novel to me because I live in New York. In the elevators, in all the elevators, there was a seismic button. And I thought it was, I love like logistics and things. So I was like, there's a seismic button. What does it do? So I looked it up. And if there's an earthquake, then it will automatically take you to the closest floor and it will open the doors. And I had never seen that before. Like I've been in California and stuff, but I guess I just wasn't paying attention. But all of the elevators in all of the hotels and everything that I went into, they all had a seismic button. And I just thought that was really cool and interesting. And I mean, I'm from New York, and we've had a couple of earthquakes in the last couple of years, but they've been really small. Only one that I even felt. But I don't think we'll need seismic buttons here for a while. But who knows with climate change? I don't know. But I just thought that was really cool. Number 6, I need to shout out. I've kind of did it before, but I just want to shout out for real. Like the lobby at the Intercontinental Hotel was the best. So I had most of my meetings here. It was right downstairs. I felt a little bit selfish asking people to come to the Intercontinental, like my own hotel. But because it was so close to the Moscone and because it was a really nice place to sit, I didn't feel too bad about asking people to come there because it's too loud on the street. It was really loud in Yerba Buena Gardens. The Marriott, which was a little bit farther away, but I also went over with some folks to the Marriott. People were shoulder to shoulder there, and people were having meetings on the stairs, and you couldn't sit on the stairs. You were standing. So it really made me appreciate the Intercontinental lobby because I always could find a place to sit. I mean, it was busy, but still you could find a place to sit off to the side. You could have meetings. It was quite nice. And again, it was right next to the Moscone Center. So I didn't feel too bad about saying just pop over here and we'll chat in the lobby. And it was really, really good. Okay, number 5 of my very specific favorite things were the Dirty Shirleys at the CCP party. So if you don't know what a Dirty Shirley is, it's a Shirley Temple with vodka. And Shirley Temple is notoriously alcohol-free. So it's usually just Sprite and grenadine, which is cherry juice or whatever. But I asked for a Dirty Shirley because it's my favorite drink. And they were only using really good alcohol. So it was a Dirty Shirley with the Sprite and Kettle One vodka. And they used real cherry juice. It wasn't the grenadine in the bottle. It was real cherry juice and real cherries. It was so good. It was so memorable to me. So delicious. It was really good. And now it's going to make all the other Dirty Shirleys that I get at the dive bars here in New York far inferior. But it was great. Number 4. So I just want to call out the badge printing process at GDC was so easy and seamless. It was so easy. So compared to places like Gen Con and places like PAX, where you have to go and you have to stand in line for however long, and then you have to tell them your name and show them your ID, and then they go find your thing in a long thing of envelopes, and then they have to find it and give it to you to sign these things. It wasn't like that at GDC. You literally went in, they emailed you a QR code beforehand. So you just literally needed your QR code. They had a little machine that scanned your QR code. It automatically went to a printer and it told you go to station 14. That's where it's going to be printed out. There was a person there to check your ID, make sure you were you. They handed you your badge, and that was that. It was the easiest thing. And I think that all big cons, because I don't even know how many people went to GDC, but it was tons. It was tons. And a lot of people were getting their badges at the same time that I did. And it literally took me 3 minutes. And I also went with Stefania to grab her badge the next day because we wanted to go into the expo hall. And there were tons of people there, even more people there when we were getting her badge. Took no time. It was so easy. The only drawback is that if you lose your badge, I think it's like $150 for them to print you a new one. So don't lose it. But getting it was a piece of cake. Number 3 of things that I remember and appreciated were kanji at the breakfast bar at the hotel. So my throat was done. Basically, starting right off, my voice was shot. I was talking to so many people. Like, it sounds pretty bad now. It sounded even worse last week. And every morning on the breakfast bar, they had kanji. And kanji is a like Chinese rice gruel, I think is probably the best way of putting it. Basically, you throw some rice in with a bunch of water and you just let it cook for a few hours. And it's just this really satisfying and savory of sort of soup. And a lot of Chinese folks eat it for breakfast. I eat it any time of day, but they also had things to put in it. So soy sauce and hot sauce. And I put some like bacon and boiled eggs in it. And it was just a wonderful start of every day, a really soothing thing for my throat. So shout out to the kanji every day. It made me really happy. Number 2, I wanted to talk about this earlier, but I wanted to refrain so I could talk about it now. So on the expo floor, there was an amazing game called How to Pet Your Cat. And it was literally, the game controller was this huge cat butt that 2 people go head to head and try to pet the cat the best. And basically the controller is this butt and you're just kind of like hitting the cat butt and like petting the cat as fast as possible and trying to beat the person that's playing with you. And it was delightful. And it was by Dachu Interactive, I believe is what it was called. And so it was just really cool. And there's just this big fuzzy cat. Also, something that I realized that I noticed that was weird. So walking the floor, some of the games that they had there were really hardware heavy games. So like How to Pet Your Cat, it's literally a cat butt is the controller. There was this other game, I forget the name of it, but you're basically racing office chairs. And so they had 4 office chairs and these chairs were the controllers, which is very cool. It's very, very cool. And there was another one where they had this huge monster and you basically had to reach inside this monster and find things. And it was this big fuzzy monster. And these are all very, very cool things. But I'm just thinking, like, who is this for? Because me as a consumer, I can't just buy a huge cat butt to play this one game. And for the office chair game, like literally these are huge office chairs, like regular sized office chairs. So if anybody out there kind of knows the use case for these, and it's very, very cool. And it's like new technology, which was really cool to see. But I'm just in practice, what does this mean? Because, I'm a practical type of person. So who's going to be buying these? Are these for carnivals? Are these for arcades? Are these for things like that? Because it's really, really cool. And it looked a lot of fun, especially the How to Pet Your Cat game was super fun. So, I mean, I'm more power to them. I hope that everything succeeds. And also cats. I mean, come on, cats. I gotta shout out the cats. And number 1 on the very specific Jess's GDC top 10 list, number 1 was taking a few minutes by myself to eat a burrito in the Yerba Buena Gardens on a really sunny day. I believe it was Thursday. And I had a few minutes. So I went to Chipotle and I got a burrito and I took a towel with me and I just sat in the gardens and like quietly listened to some music and ate my burrito. And it was so wonderful. It gave me a few minutes to reflect on the week because I knew that I was leaving early the next day. And just sitting there and just kind of being grateful for being there and grateful for all the folks that I talked to and the new friends that I had met. And of course, burrito. You can't really be mad or sad when you're eating a burrito. And it was a really good burrito. Also, funny enough, I was going to like talk to people in Yerba Buena Gardens and I did talk to some folks, but where I had posted up, I sat there for a little while and there was like more and more people that started like congregating behind me. And I didn't know what it was for. So I was talking with this woman and she was like, oh, you're doing a podcast. I was like, yeah. She was like, well, do you know about this meetup behind you? And I was like, no. So it was the meetup for the Triple Click podcast, which is probably the biggest gaming podcast out there. And I was like, oh, I'm either in the best place or the worst place because everybody there really just wanted to talk about Triple Click. And I think the Triple Click folks were actually there meeting people. So people didn't really feel like talking to me about my podcast. But I just thought that was really funny because it started out just a few people and then there are just tons of people. And so I just kind of sat there, listened to music and ate my burrito. But it was a really good time and it was such a nice day. And yeah, it was wonderful. So that was my top 10 of very specific Jess GDC things that I just kind of remembered and appreciated. So I'm going to get out of here so that I could go have a nap because I'm still feeling kind of like garbage. But a few final thoughts about GDC. I had a great time. 10 out of 10 would con again. I would definitely do it again. So next year, if I go next year, I may probably skip the all access pass because that's the most expensive one. And I didn't go to a ton of the talks, so I would probably skip that and go more for the vault access instead. But I was very lucky. I could just kind of go in and out wherever I wanted with the all access pass. So that was very nice. But also I just don't feel like I went to enough talks to really warrant doing that again. Also, I would take more allergy meds with me because I had to buy a bunch of allergy medications because New York allergies don't really hit me too much because I live here and I'm used to being here. San Francisco allergies hit me like a Mack truck. The first day, like on Monday, I was like, after I got there, I was, a husk of a human being and it was bad. It was just like, why is this happening? So I just went and bought like tons of allergy medication and also take throat lozenges. I had some, but I had to go buy more because just talking to so many people plus the allergies, my throat was done. It didn't take long for my throat was done, but it was great. I can't wait to get the vault access and watch a bunch of the stuff that I missed. But I really felt connected to friends, connected to new friends, connected to like the New York State game dev kind of ecosystem because there's a bunch out there, especially upstate New York in like Troy. And I met people from Utica and Albany. So it's not just New York City where people or game devs are living. And just felt connected to game dev as a whole, like after losing my job last year, and no longer like actively working for a game company, I have felt just kind of like lost and out of it for a bit. Like I know I've had the podcast and I'm still talking to people and I am looking for jobs within the game industry, but of course, like in New York, that's super hard right now. It's hard no matter where you are. Honestly, you could be in Seattle where there's tons of game companies and still have a lot of trouble finding a job. So I 100% get that. And so it really made me feel like close to the game industry and that we all love, that I love. And honestly, so speaking of games that we all love, so there were times that I was walking through like the expo floor and I was like, I kind of wish I was back in the room playing 2 Point Museum. So I'm like still addicted to 2 Point Museum and it's so much fun. And I'm so much farther along than I was a couple of weeks ago when I talked about it on the podcast. So it's an addictive game. Play 2 Point Museum. There's my own current obsession. It's actually an obsession because I'm off doing things and thinking about my museums. Cool. And that's about it. So thanks for listening. You can find me at Blue Sky at caketease.bsky.social. I'm on Instagram as cake_tease. I'm on YouTube at Cake Tease. I post all of these episodes on YouTube as well. So if you like to like put YouTube on in the background, or a lot of people like get all of their music and podcasts from YouTube. So I'm on YouTube as well. It's not visual yet. So it's only audio, but you can, I have a whole playlist on the Cake Tease channel for this podcast. So if you could subscribe, that would be great. Subscribe on your podcast app of choice, whether that's Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio or all those fun things. Subscribing really helps get the word out. Maybe leaving a review would be nice. I have so many great reviews so far, and I really appreciate everyone who has left a review. And it really helps out to get us in kind of like that algorithm, and algorithm is so important. Yeah, I appreciate all of you. So this podcast is hosted and executive produced by me. I'm Jess Pardue. Our logo and theme music are by the brilliant Bayard Russell. Mixing and final editing are by Gabe Koski, who went through a magician phase, but only for the close. And I will see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.